You're listening to Last Word Radio, where you get the last word.
Welcome to the Fourth Line Podcast, part of the Alberta Podcast Network, powered by ATB. This is April the 29th, 2019. With you today is myself, Carl, and back again, Stevie Nick.
Hey, Stevie Nick.
Stevie Nick, that song you had for us last week, which you can go to any of our socials and find it if you didn't, or just go back and listen to the start of last week's show. It was stuck in my head all week.
Mine too.
You got a real gift.
Smiling, Carl. I'm just so happy.
Honest, I found myself, like, I was sharing it. My wife, she doesn't follow the Red Wings, obviously, and she moderately follows. I was like, you got to listen to this song. This song is so good. And she enjoyed it, so it's a hit.
Well, thank you. I'm glad that you were able to pull that video out and share it with the world.
Yeah, the joys of us experimenting with the fact that we actually record video of us doing this every single week, and all things that no one knows about.
Yeah. And the logo is perfectly placed to block the Roman Colosseum on my wall behind me.
Yeah, that's, maybe someday we'll just keep switching it out. We'll just leave it there and figure out what does Nick put on his wall behind him every single week. But, that's a lot of fun. And, are you're still, living in the afterglow of Steve Yzerman?
Oh, it's just, I wake up every day and I think about it and I smile. Every day is a good day when Stevie's in your life.
Have you actually thought about it every day since he signed?
Of course.
Wow.
At least once a day. Of course. I
don't think that there would be... I'm trying to think if I have thought of the Avalanche in the playoffs every day. I must have thought about something.
Surely you have.
Playoffs started, yeah.
But I'm not the only one, Carl. 'Cause I went on the Red Wings subreddit, I think it was yesterday or the day before, and they have just general discussion every day. And I went in, and there's just one comment that said Steve Yzerman, period, and nothing else. This is over a week after he was announced as GM.
Yeah, well, it makes sense. There's a lot to be happy about in Hockey Town, as we discovered last week. Lots to talk about this week. The first round is wrapped up. We'll be touching on how that ended, especially in San Jose there. Touch on what's happened so far in the second round. We also have a special guest this week, Nick.
Yes, we do.
Sam Blazer from First Ohio Battery. He's going to join us to talk about Blue Jackets and tattooing. So we're going to get some nice tattoo tips from Sam.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see where the show takes us. We've got a lot going on. This is the playoffs after all. We will get to that. Before we get to any of that, remind everyone the Alberta Podcast Network is powered by ATB, which is the official bank of the Fourth Line Podcast. One thing that, I don't think most podcasts have an official bank, but we do. And that's one thing that's great, because we are very excited that ATB is that, because they do such great things in the community. And for people like us, they're always supporting community initiatives, especially in the realm of sport. If you go to atb.com/hockey, you can find out all the ways that they're supporting. If you are a Oilers or Flames fan, they support that. If you have family, friends who have kids in hockey, or if you have kids in hockey or are a kid in hockey, in amateur hockey in Alberta, they support that as well. And we thank them for that. They're a big part of growing the game all around our province. So head to atb.com and find out how you can be a part of helping those as well.
Are they responsible for putting the Loonie under center ice at the Vancouver 2010 Olympic Games?
I think they actually, I believe, and don't quote me on this, I believe that they actually went to an ATB branch and got that Loonie. So,
wow.
Yeah, there
you go.
Those are the
hockey roots run deep.
It's very true. The first round is done. Teams have moved on. Last week we talked about my Avalanche moving on. Very exciting. Also very excited. Heading down to San Jose. Spoilers. We haven't gotten to that series yet, but heading down to San Jose for Game 5.
Yeah, hockey in California.
If anyone's got any tips for pre-game food, it's kind of the only thing I need to worry about. I've got my tickets.
That arena, I've been to that arena actually. It's kind of in a weird spot. There's not too much around it, if I remember correctly.
That's disappointing.
But the arena itself is Oh, it's better than Calgary.
Okay,
Yeah.
so there's more things than around the Saddle Dome then.
Yeah.
That's good, because the closest thing to the Saddle Dome to eat at is probably my house. So
yeah, no, there's definitely stuff around there. And I also showed up very close to game time, if I remember correctly. But the arena's really good, and the vibe in there is really good too.
yeah, and so obviously I was enemy behind enemy lines in Calgary. I'll behind enemy lines in San Jose. I would love someday to watch the Avalanche actually play in Denver. It's the thing I should do, I think.
Then you won't have to have that debate about whether or not you wear a jersey.
Yeah, I am going to be wearing my jersey. I am also trying to convince the Sharks fans that I'm going with to wear a Matt Duchene jersey.
Good luck.
Yeah, my play is that he's not actually on the team, so it's not traitorous.
I guess.
Neither is I guess Sakic is with the team, so that counts.
Yes, he absolutely is.
Let's go to Game 7, San Jose, Vegas, Golden Knights. Big events in that game. Vegas was up 3-0, and then a penalty happened.
Yeah. Big penalty. Long penalty.
Penalty on a cross-check on Joe Pavelski, which was a 5-minute major. Thoughts on the penalty itself?
Bad call. I think it was a bad call. I think the result of the play was very bad. Like, it looked bad.
Anytime blood drips from a helmet, that's not a good thing.
Yeah, Pavelski got just like crushed that series, poor guy. And I think that looked really bad, like unconscious on the ice, bleeding, no good. But when you look at the replay of what actually happened, that play happens every game almost.
Yeah, I agree. Like, you should not make a decision for a penalty based on the severity of the injury, right? That was not worthy of just because he fell awkwardly, kind of bounced off of someone else, fell, still not back yet, right? And I don't see him coming back anytime soon. I'd actually, be surprised if we saw him back in this Colorado series. But shocking, well, not shocking, but not, the right call for that.
Well, they can't review penalty calls, right?
Do you like that?
I think I
want to add another thing to review.
No, I don't. I think I like that they can't review it, but I think that's why the call ended up being what it ended up being. I don't know if anyone got a clear view of it while it was happening. And then they see Pavelski out cold, bleeding, and assumed it was worse than it was.
Yeah. Yeah, because, the linesman's dropping the puck. He's looking at the face-off that happened right in front. He was the one with the best view, and how he hit the ice happened behind him. So, certainly not the best perspective. That said, penalty or not, 2 or 5, you need to have a better penalty kill than what Vegas had. The fact that they lost that game is not on that referee. Sure, they wouldn't have the 5-minute power play, but you cannot give up 3 goals in 5 minutes no matter what. Because even if that was 3 minor penalties, right? Like, if you can't kill 3 back to back to back, you do not belong in the second round. I don't care.
I realize listeners can't see me nodding, but yeah, I 100% agree with you. I actually had that rant ready to go. You beat me to it. They got it. Like, you got to be able to defend that. Yeah. You have to.
And I get the fact. Sure, you can be upset, Vegas. You have every right to be, but you need to be better, because there are going to be bad calls every single time. We saw it in Game 2, right? We saw Marc-Edouard Vlasic complaining about an icing call. He thought that should have been icing, wasn't. Avs scored on it.
Yeah.
You know what? You benefited from that in the last series. There's going to be calls that do or do not go your way every single game. There's going to be all of them. It's a fast game. There's a lot that happens. And if you whine and complain every single time, it's not going to go well for you.
No. I mean, these calls happen all year, like throughout the whole regular season. The difference is that there's so much more on the line now.
Right. Because one call that changes a game doesn't matter as much in middle of February, January. Now, when you only have 4 chances, for sure. It's
much bigger, but yeah, like you got to be able to defend that. And Fleury, I thought Fleury was having a pretty good game. I mean, I went to bed when it was 3-0 at the end of the second period because I was like, okay, this game's over now and it's 11:30 or whatever. And then I woke up and I was like, what the hell happened? How could this have happened? But I thought Fleury looked solid. Like I was of the mindset that this game's over because they're not beating Fleury.
Yeah. Well, and even into the rest of that game, right? Like I have a very hard time blaming a goaltender for goals against on a penalty kill. No matter how bad he plays, like he gave up 1 goal at even strength that game.
Yeah.
That's enough to win the game, right? He did exactly what he needed to. I guess the 1 goal at even strength in regulation. I don't remember that. I forget if the overtime goal, I think that was even strength. I could be mistaken, but
I think it was.
Yeah, it's just, you need to be better. And that's the simple fact of it. San Jose onto the second round. A heck of a game though. One of the craziest games. You missed a good one while you were asleep.
Yeah, I missed like 1 period of hockey and like the whole hockey world exploded.
Yeah. Which is, that's going to happen. We have now San Jose, Colorado in the second round, and this has been a fantastic series. It was, game 1 of that series was very reminiscent of Colorado versus Calgary's game 1. Colorado just kind of like looks like they don't where Colorado looks fairly good and the scoreboard looks a lot worse than it actually was. Colorado played a very good game 1, lost 5-2, reminiscent of their 4-0 loss in Calgary, and then came back out and started slow, but had for the most of that game number 2 looked great and managed to pull off the win in San Jose, tying it up, going back to Colorado. And this is one that smells a lot like the 7-game series we just saw against Vegas.
Yeah, you think it's going to go 7?
These teams are so even. We haven't even seen bad Martin Jones yet. I don't believe that we're going to get through an entire 7-game series with one bad Martin Jones.
He's coming. He's coming for sure.
So we've got both of those kind of looming. And yeah, I fully expect this to go 7 now.
Yeah, Nate McKinnon is going beast mode still.
Yeah, he's actually, him and Mikko Rantanen are currently tied. They have a point in every game Colorado scored. They're on a 6-game point streak, 1 back of Peter Forsberg, which is interesting because like even on the socials, there was a lot of talk of, does Mikko doesn't look healthy. He's not at 100%, and he's not. But you still see he's producing, right? Tyson Barrie had a fantastic game. Overshadowed. Brent Burns was phenomenal yesterday. He was the Sharks. And, Joe Pavelski goes down. You're like, who's going to step up as the leader? Oh, it's Brent Burns and then some. So, Tyson Barrie played fantastic. They switched around the lines and now we have the youth line on the back end of Sam Girard and Cale Makar, which was a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, that's fun. So who do you think has been the Conn Smythe candidate on the Avalanche in this playoff so far?
It would be McKinnon. Yeah. I mean, and he hasn't been great. I would probably put Tyson Barrie a close second. He's at a fantastic playoffs, but yeah, McKinnon, there's no one that has really owned it and been, next level, but yeah, McKinnon's been pretty good.
Now, on San Jose's side, Brent Burns, 7 points the last 2 games in this series so far. Series 1 was all Carlson, right? He had like 6 or 7 points through the 7 games.
Yeah.
So who is San Jose's Conn Smythe candidate so far?
I would probably say Burns just because of recency bias. Like if I'm actually going to pick who would be it, right? They kind of forget what happens in the first round. And it's like, what have you done for me lately? So I'm going with Burns for that series.
Okay.
Let's go to the other series. Dallas, St. Louis.
The only game on tonight.
It's the only game. The NHL's decided to give some teams nights off, which is generous. One thing that's interesting though, and it's not looking likely, but I know we sat here last week and said that teams were done when they most certainly were not. if somehow the Carolina Hurricanes and New York Islanders do go 7 games, they will be having games with all these extra days off. They're playing a back-to-back, which that'll be fun.
You think so?
Well, it'll be tired. It'll give them a lot of time.
Are they for sure doing a back-to-back?
That is the scheduled game. I believe May 7th is game 6. May 8th is game 7.
Oh my God. That's going to be like chaos. Imagine game 6 goes to overtime.
Yeah. That would be, yeah. And they do have to, I'm going to pull up the actual official schedule here, but yeah, that's what's happening. So game 7, they haven't announced times yet for either of them because they don't announce times till the games will actually happen. But yeah, game 7 is one day after. So they're going to be getting that done. And there'll also be 3 game 7s that day on a Wednesday. So that's Tuesday, Wednesday that week. We're going to be having a lot of hockey if these go 7 games.
Yeah. So Dallas, St. Louis. Give me a reason to be excited about this series, because at this point, I couldn't really care less.
The first and second periods of game 2, which were on Saturday afternoon, was some very incredibly fast, incredibly messy hockey. And they buttoned up from then on, but they scored, I believe it was 3 goals in a minute and a half, which is almost Carolina Hurricane-esque. But that's about it, right? Like there was not a lot from the rest of that game. It's fun. They're very evenly matched teams. If you want to watch a game that's very likely to go to overtime, I'm surprised that game on Saturday didn't. I wasn't able to watch the end. I was doing this thing. I was watching this movie. Have you heard of Avengers? Is a movie that came out recently. It's this like indie thing. You might not have heard of it.
Yeah, Avengers. I thought that movie's been out for a while. Iron Man and Captain America come together.
Yeah. Well, there's a new one actually that came out.
Oh, number 2.
Yeah, number 2 came out. And so I went and I saw that, and it was fine. But I missed the end of the game. So
right.
Nonetheless, to make a case, I don't know if I can make a case for you. Like,
I just feel like maybe it's because these are teams in the Western Conference that I don't see or hear about very much during the regular season.
Here comes your Eastern bias coming in strong.
I know, but like, look, Carl, I live in the hockey mecca of the world, so it makes it hard to care about Texas hockey, if you know what I mean.
You know what? There is a lot of really good Marlies hockey being played right now. I understand you have that opinion. But maybe for a second, head to Missouri and watch St. Louis play hockey. The Midwest to do it.
I'd love to. St. Louis and Dallas are still on my list of arenas I need to visit.
Yeah, well, I've only visited 2, so.
I'm up to like almost, I think I'm up to half now, just over half.
Wow. Yeah, I haven't even been to the other arena in Alberta, and I haven't been to my team's arena for a game. I haven't
been to your team's arena. Yeah, no, me neither. I went when I was in Denver. Funny story, just as an aside. When I was in Denver, it was the summer, but we had booked tours through Groupon to go do a tour of the arena, and they take you in the locker room and stuff.
Yeah.
And we went to do it. The day we went to do it, they had canceled all the tours because Coldplay was performing that night, so they had to be setting up the arena.
Oh, that's fine. I like Coldplay, though. Did you go to the show?
I did not.
Oh, no, that's fine.
But I liked Coldplay until they canceled my tour.
That's fair. I went to the arena also in the summer, and I actually just missed the tour. I didn't book it.
Okay.
And the guy said, "Oh, you just missed it." But luckily, it was the year that they switched jerseys, so I went to the store and got a Matt Duchene jersey at half price.
That's fun.
Yeah, now I have this Matt Duchene jersey I don't know what to do with.
Okay, back to the series. Dallas. Rupee Hintz?
Roop Hintz.
4 points in this series so far.
Yeah.
Never heard of this guy before.
Yeah, and you probably never will ever again. Roop Hintz has been playing well. He's not playing with that top unit, getting some secondary minutes, but making the most of it. And he had one play. If you want to go back and rewatch that, he had quite the little dangles and pass to Miro Heiskanen.
Heiskanen.
Miro Heiskanen. That's how it's said. Yeah, and that if we're talking about MVPs of a series, Conn Smythe, I'm going Heiskanen.
Heiskanen is your Dallas Stars Conn Smythe.
That is my
candidate?
Dallas Stars Conn Smythe. What about yourself?
Yeah, I'd probably go Heiskanen too. I don't know. Zuccarello has been good in the playoffs since he came back, so he's probably at the top of my list.
I'd also be shoving Ben Bishop on that list as well.
Yeah, big time, for sure. So, okay, before we talk about St. Louis's, let's play a quick game of where is he from? Roop Hintz. Carl, where is he from?
Roop Hintz. I mean, I know his appearance, and it looks European. Mm-hmm. He's got the European, Finnish, Swedish thing going. But I'm going to go with the United States.
He's from Finland.
Dang it!
Trust your gut, man.
I should have trusted my gut. I just felt like I guess I don't know that many Finns, but I've never heard Roop or Hintz, and I just like that sounds like he could be from St. Louis, actually.
Yeah, it does.
Like
or
Roop
Texas.
Hintz he's in a Wrangler commercial, I think.
Totally. Okay, St. Louis Conn Smythe candidate so far.
Oof, St. Louis. You know, it's hard to not go with Binnington, who. Again, been good, not next level good, like we saw him through so much of the regular season. I kind of want to go with him as my choice, so I will.
I think I'd go like maybe Jaden Schwartz or Ryan O'Reilly. They'd be at the top of my list.
That's right. You told me to go with my gut after I didn't go Finnish, and so now I am. My gut says Binnington. I'm going Binnington.
Yeah, it's a respectable pick. I mean, he really has been great. You ever notice how that guy just looks grumpy all the time?
Yeah, well, he spent like 17 years in the minors before he finally got a chance. So you would be too, Nick.
He's just perma-grumpy now.
Yeah, you would be too if you had to ride a bus all across the United States.
Yeah, true enough. Well, he's getting the first-class service now.
It is true. Let's move over to the East. Let's call up old Sam.
Yeah, let's do it.
We are back, everyone. We are very excited to have with us Sam Blazer of First Ohio Battery. Sam, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I really, really appreciate it.
We obviously have you on to talk about the Columbus Blue Jackets and all things Blue Jacket. It has been a fantastic season. Well, I guess I won't speak for you. Has it been a fantastic season for yourself?
I would say undoubtedly fantastic season. We did a roundtable over at First Ohio Battery, and one of the answers was, one of the questions rather, was, are you fine with them just winning one round and then, exiting after this? And I said, I'm not going to lie. I'm completely content with this. If they didn't even win another game against the Boston Bruins and they got swept out, it felt like in the city, in the arena, everywhere, it felt like it was already a Stanley Cup won just because of how many years that it's been since the Blue Jackets have actually been able to do anything of consequence. And doing it against one of the best teams, I guess, regular season teams rather, of the Stanley Cup era, that's, just icing on top of the cake. It was absolutely fantastic. So I have enjoyed this very, very much.
It definitely has been really exciting. And I know that like the playoffs, you guys are riding high right now and you're loving the season, but did you feel this way through the whole regular season too? Like there was kind of the whole Panarin Bobrovsky cloud hanging over the team, and it took them a while after the trade deadline to mesh. Like throughout the season, how optimistic were you feeling?
I would say beginning the season, even going all the way back to then, I was pretty confident that they were going to make the playoffs, just because you have probably top 15 player in the league in Panarin, and you probably have a top 5 goalie in Bobrovsky, and you think to yourself, even if they have them for half a season, they should, give them a little bit of a lead. To be completely honest, all the guys over at First Ohio Battery, it was divided on whether or not they thought that they were going to be traded at the deadline. It was just really up in the air, and I didn't necessarily have confidence that they should keep them because they're I think they were the first wild card spot with a couple games in hand, and then they lost a few games after the trade deadline. And the thought process was, well, I can't believe they did this. They gave up pretty much every first round pick until I think 2021. And so this is how it all goes out. And so it was, as an onlooker, there's no way that you thought that this was a good idea at that point in time. The last 10 or so games when the Blue Jackets really turned it on, you could see that they were starting to mesh. You could see Matt Duchene was starting to feel more comfortable. Ryan Zingle was contributing goals. Even Adam McQuaid, who I didn't have a lot of faith in at the trade deadline, was contributing as well. So I think the Blue Jackets overall are doing a really, really great job, for what they've been given, because there's almost no expectations. I think once that happened, people thought, well, they're going all in, but is this really the team to do it with? And now look where we are.
So you're now content with those moves? You said you were a little uneasy on keeping them. You happy with what you gave up, knowing now that you've made it to the second round?
I would say so. I mean, even if they don't re-sign Matt Duchene, I think that part of this about Columbus is psyche. It's about, having non-fans tune in, be happy, and enjoy what's going on right now. And I think that even if all of the free agents end up walking, I think it's a moment that I think Blue Jackets fans needed to have just to feel, satiated and allow them to, feel what the playoffs are really about. The first time they ever made the playoffs, they got swept by one of the legendary Detroit Red Wings teams. And I kind of feel like that was a microcosm of the Blue Jackets in general. It's like, good enough to make it, but not good enough to make any noise. And now this time around, they're making some noise, and I'm excited to see how far they end up going.
Yeah, from a hockey fans or NHL perspective, so me, I love this because you see a lot of teams buying at the deadline normally, but you don't see a lot of them going all in the way Columbus did. And it's really exciting when it happens on trade deadline day and to see whether it works or not. And I'm glad that it works because I want teams to keep doing that in the future.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And a lot of national guys were like, I hope that this means that other GMs in the future will do something similar. I think Jarmo and John Davidson have a fairly long lead. They've built a winner here. And so I think that they kind of had, a certain amount of, I guess, I don't even know the right word to say here, but they had a lot of leash and they were able to do this. And I think that ownership was completely fine with it because they thought to themselves, if we're not going to be able to re-sign Panarin and Bobrovsky, well, when are we going to be in a similar position? So I like it. I am really enjoying it now. And I think that if other teams are in a similar position, why not? How the Islanders had Tavares last year and they, were upset with him leaving. It's like, it maybe a better taste would have been in their mouths if they ended up, making the playoffs and going a little bit further with, having him as that centerpiece. Who knows?
Yeah. Do you think that Jarmo saved his job? Was he?
That's a tough one. I mean, if this would have gone the other way, I think there may have been something where Jarmo could have been on the chopping block. But I think overall, he's been producing, playoff contending teams, and he's been able to find some real steals deep in the draft. So I think that he's a real value-added person. He is someone who's going to search and go all over the place. I mean, even right now, Alexander Texier, second-round pick, who was playing in the French League. He was drafted as a 17-year-old, and now he's starting in the playoffs, scoring. I think he had 2 goals in the Game 4, the final game against Tampa. It's like, that's not somebody who's going to be, the top of everybody's list, especially someone drafted directly out of a French league. So I think he was fine no matter what. But I think that if this would have gone sideways, that it would have really put a microscope on him. It normally wouldn't have ended up being there.
Yeah, well, and obviously great success beating Tampa, as we all assumed they would, right? We all had them with the sweep in the first round.
Right.
A lot of focus was on Tampa, right? And what they didn't do wrong. Well, what did Columbus do right that led them to beating Tampa? When you watch those games, what impressed you about them?
There was a lot made of a pregame from John Tortorella in Game 1, basically saying, don't step back, kind of stay where you are, and, realize that you can skate and play with these guys. And I think that's really what they ended up doing. I wouldn't say a lot of teams played scared against the Tampa Bay Lightning during the year, but they really they took it to them as much as Tampa took it to the Blue Jackets. And I think, being as aggressive as they were, I don't think the Lightning were expecting it. And I think after that first period, 3 goals against the Blue Jackets, and then they were able to come back on them. I think after that, in game 2, when they ended up taking to them 5-1, it was pretty, I think almost after that comeback, because you could just see how dejected they were, and how in the second game they didn't even come out thinking that they were even had a chance. And the Blue Jackets just ended up taking to them. They were skating faster, they were passing better, they were shooting better, and overall the defense was absolutely stifling as well. So I think it just ended up being all the aspects of the game. They ended up having an advantage just because it was almost like a mental spirit of the Lightning ended up being broken after that one, after that first game comeback. So it was interesting because it was not anything I predicted. Another round table before the series, I was asked on a scale of 1 to 5 what my confidence was in the Blue Jackets winning. And I said 1, is there any opportunity to answer with a negative number? And so that tells you how little faith I had in the Blue Jackets to win this. I mean, but also by the same token, I'm a naturally pessimistic person. I'm somebody who in the first game made a really, really bad bet and ended up having to pay up for it. So that lets you know the kind of person I am.
Yeah, so let's talk about that for a minute. So the Blue Jackets stunned the Lightning in that first game, but I think they stunned like the hockey world in general. So it's like the playoffs are starting. I think this was the game that kicked off the playoffs this year. Tampa gets up 3-0 in the first period, and you're a hockey writer, so you're on Twitter during the games, and the Jackets are down 3-0, and you tweet, if they come back, you're going to get a tattoo of the first Ohio Battery on your butt, right?
This is true. I did tweet that, unfortunately.
Do you believe that you caused the Columbus Blue Jackets to come back and win that game?
What's funny is I had multiple people after the series sweep tweet at me and say something to the effect of, this series win should go to Sam's ass. And I don't know if I don't know if I agree with it at all, but it was something that I actually started to think about for a second, and then I go, that's just way too arrogant, way too selfish to think that I had any bearing on this whatsoever. So no, I don't think I had any bearing on it, but I cannot believe that it ended up happening. It was pretty much a nightmare as it happened.
So when you sent that tweet, what was going through your mind? Anything? Was it just like, this is not going to happen
nothing.
at all?
Actually, one of the guys I write with, him and I were watching the game together. He tweeted that he was going to reveal the most embarrassing thing he had in the Slack, and I had been joking in our Slack all year long that I was going to about different ass bet tattoos, and then I finally tweeted it out, and I made a joke about one-upping him. And as the Blue Jackets kept scoring, I think David Savard walked Victor Hedman, I think to make it 3-2. I looked over at him and I said, "Oh no, they're going to come back, aren't they?" And he goes, "Oh no." He goes, "You're not going to have to do it anyway." And at that point I was like, "Okay, we're fine." And then when they actually tied it up, I didn't even cheer. That was the real issue of it all. Is that and then after that it was an absolute mess. And then they were up 4-3, and I ended up 3 or 4 accounts that had close to 1 million followers retweeted it. I was like, oh well, I'm done for at this point. So
yeah. Once you get those RTs, right? That's when it becomes real.
Exactly. I ended up getting all these quote tweets basically like, this guy doesn't do this. He's an absolute baby, blah blah blah. And I was like, you know what? I'm enough of a psycho that I can pull this off, and people aren't going to think this is out of character for me.
So just so we all know, you did go through with it?
I did go through with a tattoo. After game 1, it was actually 2 or 3 days where I had local radio people, the Columbus Dispatch reached out to me, a couple other places asked me to do this, and I was like, okay, this is going to go away. And then it didn't go away, and I was like, I might as well. Who cares? And I think it was the day after the sweep, I went to the tattoo shop and ended up getting it done.
That's fantastic. So what we do know is that every series that you've ever gotten a tattoo of First Ohio Battery somewhere on your body, they've swept. With it being 1-1 right now, I think it's time for you to step up and make it happen.
just make another bet. I may need to do it. I think if they get down in this next game, I'll do another one. I'll make sure to at you guys on it. Maybe I'll get your guys' symbol on the left cheek. How about that?
sounds fantastic. Yeah, I'm all right with that. We'll just have a whole collection of just a whole bunch of hockey writing logos and podcasts all across your butt. This will be fantastic. So let's talk on this series against Boston, tied up right now. And what are your thoughts on the series so far?
Oh man, it's a real rough and tumble series. I mean, really rough and tumble. I can't get over how tough it's been. When watching, obviously you don't want to face the Tampa Bay Lightnings of the world, but when watching the Maple Leafs Bruins series, I really thought that there could have been a similar forcefulness that the Blue Jackets could have put on the Maple Leafs that would have looked similar to what they've done to the Lightning. I was kind of hoping that'd be the case because I really see what the Bruins are doing very similar to the Blue Jackets. Really straight ahead. I think the Bruins overall are a tiny bit better offensively. I think Blue Jackets may have a slight advantage on the top end with their defensemen. And I think goaltending is a real coin flip depending on what night with Rask and Bobrovsky. So it's a real tough series. And obviously there's been huge checks. There's been pretty much it's gone to OT both games. And I don't think they could be any more even after these two games. And I'm really interested to see what ends up happening when they come to Columbus to see if there's any advantage that they can glean, because it was absolutely nuts when the Lightning came to town.
Yeah, and so that'll be coming up. They have a day off today, back at it tomorrow on Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously going to be a big game coming back to Columbus. The fans will be in full force.
Exactly. And it'll be interesting because they put Alexander Wenberg in for game 2 for Ryan Dzingel, who is somebody they acquired at the deadline. Dzingel, for whatever reason, looked good at the beginning of the Tampa series. A little bit lost the Tampa series. In the first game against Boston, he was just a complete non-factor. Wenberg has not been very good offensively this year, but Tortorella really likes his defensive game. And for Wenberg, when he's at his absolute best, is probably one of the better passers in the NHL. I think their thought process is if he can just be even half of what he was at his peak, that they're getting a net add. And I'm just interested to see how they maybe adjust from here, because Alexander Texier, he did not play at all in the overtime for in game 2. Mm-hmm. And they're coming back here, and I wonder if, with the last change there, that they may end up trying to avoid putting him out there and putting him in bad situations. He had one turnover that turned into a big scoring chance, and then we kind of didn't see him too much after that. So I do wonder how that's going to end up shaking out.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Before the series started, I had a bit of a head versus heart thing going on, and I picked Boston. I don't remember how many games, despite so badly wanting Columbus to win, mostly just because I love Nick Foligno for unknown reasons. But after watching parts of the first 2 games, and they both went to overtime, I see now how much closer the two teams actually are.
It's odd. The first period of game 1, the Bruins absolutely took it to the Blue Jackets. But periods 2 and 3, the Blue Jackets ended up pushing back really hard. Obviously, the Bruins ended up winning in OT. But I think it was another one of those instances where I think the Blue Jackets needed the opportunity to, oh yeah, we can play with these guys, and that this is not somebody that can push us around. And that's, I think, for a team, they're still pretty young. A lot of their leaders are, early 20s. I think they kind of need that stuff, and they don't necessarily have the deep playoff experience that a lot of other teams have. And I think that if they can continue on from here, this is going to be invaluable. If they're going to do it, they're going to do it on the backs of the young players like Seth Jones, Zach Werenski, or even, players like, Cam Atkinson or Temi Panarin. Those guys are in their late 20s now, but those guys, other than Panarin, really haven't had a whole lot of experience in the playoffs. So it's like you need to be able to know that you're able to go up against them and take a punch and then be able to fight back. And so I think they finally got a taste of it, and they're feeling really confident right now.
Definitely, and with that victory over Tampa, the big game 2 win there, you saw Matt Duchene felt like 1,000 monkeys have been lifted off his back when he scored that goal in overtime. Definitely, the Jackets know that they can win, that they can beat Boston, they can beat Tampa, and it's literally just comes down to playing the game. Exactly.
And I think if they've been giving a little bit of too much space, I think, to the Bruins out there. They haven't been holding as steady. They've been back on their heels a few times. When the Bruins take their game to them, I think it gets a little dicey for them. But I mean, there's a real opportunity if they can get the fans behind them and be on the offensive. I don't see why they couldn't win Game 3 and end up taking a series lead here.
Well, we will certainly be watching Game 3. We'll be tuning in to First Ohio Battery at firstohiobattery.com for all of the information on the Blue Jackets. Sam, thanks for joining us. We hope that you don't lose any more bets. Regular season, postseason.
Yeah, just before we log off, Carl, I just wanted to say one thing. When I started doing hockey writing and got recruited to the Wings Nation, Sam was one of the original writers who was pulled into that site. And when I took it over, Sam took time to talk to me on the phone and text me and walk me through some stuff. So he was a great mentor and help for me. And for that, Sam, I'll always be grateful. So thank you very much. Is there anything that you want to plug while you're here with us?
Oh, geez. I guess you can follow me on Twitter at Sam_Blazer. And then you guys already said at First Ohio Battery there. But yeah, that's all I really have.
Awesome.
Well, thank you very much, and go Jackets.
Exactly. Go Jackets.
Thanks again to Sam for coming on. Very, very excited to see the Blue Jackets doing well, especially against Boston.
Me too. And more Nick Foligno smiles, please.
So many smiles. I know this has been we didn't ask Sam this question, but who would Nick be your Conn Smythe winner? Can you put bias aside long enough to pick someone who's not Nick Foligno?
I feel like Nick Foligno just deserves it for the career he has. But let me pull up a roster. So I don't know. I think Panarin's been great. You know what? Matt Duchene is the Conn Smythe candidate in Columbus.
I think it's Matt Duchene as well. I think I'd be putting my Matt Duchene jersey on proudly and do that. One thing that's been interesting, there was on the Avalanche subreddit, my difficulty with Matt Duchene has been well advertised. I do not shy away from my thoughts on Matt Duchene. Mm-hmm. But there was a substantial amount of the Avalanche fan base who are happy for him. And it's had me questioning if I should just stop being get off my lawn with Matt Duchene and just be happy for the guy.
I mean, he had to play in Ottawa, Carl. Is that not punishment enough?
That's kind of was the point that was brought to me while I was having this conversation over the weekend. But yeah, he served his time. Let him be happy.
He served his time, and he's playing good hockey right now.
Well, and also the return we got for him was pretty good. Arguably the best return we could have. Well, not arguably the best return we could have asked for.
Yeah, it's time to let it go, Carl. Hashtag let it go.
All right. Well, maybe I will. I'm working on it. It's not something that I can do just in one fell swoop.
You're not willing to commit to it yet. Maybe I will.
You know when you're mad and someone tells you to calm down?
Yeah.
That's the least calming thing possible.
Yeah.
Just relax. That's how I am with this Matt Duchene thing. I will get there.
Okay.
It's just going to take me some time.
All right. We'll work on it through the rest of the second round.
Yeah. But I saw just the joy on him. And you know what? I've said, I like him as a person. I just also don't like him as a person. So it's hard.
Okay.
It's yeah. I think we've all had that ex that makes you feel like that.
Yeah.
Matt Duchene is that.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So that's all it is.
You just no, that ex does not deserve the Conn Smythe trophy.
No, exactly. For some reason I kept his shirt, but don't know why. And then for Boston, I would probably have to go with oh geez, I don't have to answer this question for a Boston Conn Smyther, so I'll pass. I'll go Matt Duchene.
Just Matt Duchene? You're going to straight up pass on Boston? I don't really know. There isn't really a single player on Boston who stands out to me.
It would be one of those top three. If I were to not pass, I'd probably go Marchand. Charlie Coyle had a fantastic game 1, right? That was the one where he had the overtime winner.
Yeah.
And the other one, but Yeah, I would probably go Marchand, and I would hate myself for it.
I start to feel ill just thinking about Brad Marchand lifting the Conn Smythe Trophy.
Well, let's not do that. Let's go to Carolina Hurricanes and the New York Islanders, a series that made, I think, the biggest thing that determines this series and has really tainted it for me was the decision to leave Nassau Coliseum and head back to Brooklyn and play this round in the Barclays Center.
Yeah, why did they do that?
What reason number one, more seats. I believe there's more seating there. But man, it has been well advertised. We've seen Toronto Maple Leaf John Tavares has had significant thoughts on the ice quality.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about it. It has made for some terrible playoff hockey. Like the Nets have been in there since there was last games played. So like, it's not like they're taking good care of the ice. You add on top of it the fact that it's April, almost May. And unlike Calgary, who had a nice blizzard here on Saturday, warmer weather in New York, it is not made for nice hockey. There's a reason, sure, Robin Lehner, good. There is a reason that game 1 was 1-0 and game 2 was 2-1. That puck is everywhere.
Oh, we'll see if it improves in Carolina, who always has good ice.
Yeah, Carolina is well known for its cold temperatures and high quality ice. Is that rink known for good ice?
No, it's not.
I didn't think so.
I remember, this was probably like 2 or 3 years ago. I remember the Red Wings were supposed to play there, and they had to cancel the game because it was just a puddle. Like all day, they couldn't figure out what was going on. It was just a puddle of water.
Yeah, and that would have been regular season.
That was regular season.
And so even later in the year, and certainly it's going to be tough for them to get that ice good. And so, yeah, this is just going to be a bunch of low-scoring games with pucks bouncing everywhere and less than good-looking hockey.
Yeah, it's all about luck, Carl, with those bounces.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that Curtis McElhinney won a game as the goaltender in the playoffs speaks as much to that series as anything else.
Big time.
And he played well. He obviously played well enough to win. It's not like he didn't get tested in that game when he came in relief of Peter Mrazek. But also, Peter Mrazek's winning games in the playoffs. He's getting playoff shutouts. If I had have told, what would you have tattooed on your body as a bet 2 years ago if I said, do you think Peter Mrazek's going to get a playoff win? A playoff shutout?
Well, he was a Red Wing at that point. So I definitely would not have made that bet because I would have said, no, it will never happen.
Yeah. And you would make the choice to not get the Wings Nation logo anywhere?
Yes.
I guess anywhere else.
Anywhere more.
Yeah. Yeah. That all those places you presently have it. will not, we won't dive into at this point in time, but
no.
Yeah, it's a weird series, exacerbated by the fact that we don't have good ice. And so it just makes it, and I don't want to put the series down to just that. It was just something that bothered me watching it and knowing that like we could have had something better over in Nassau, but now we're back in stupid Barclays and I can't wait for them to build a new arena.
Yeah. For at least one more game, right?
Yeah. Well, not necessarily. It's 2-0 Island or Hurricanes.
Oh yeah, man. I don't know why I was thinking it was 1-1 like every other series.
The only series that's not 1-1. I do want to take this opportunity right now. Our longtime Islanders friend, Matt, he hosts a podcast, Reasons Are Several, which is ending. And so I just want to give this thank you for the years of your podcast, Matt. And we hopefully, as a going away present, the Islanders win one game for you.
Just one, though.
You know what? I'm fine if the Islanders move on.
Me too. I'm just teasing.
But, I don't think either of those teams are getting past Columbus or Boston, so.
Agreed. But we love you, Matt.
We do. And thank you for the podcast, and look forward to seeing whatever you get up to in the future.
Yeah.
Do we want to pick Conn Smythers for this series?
Yes. Conn Smythe candidate for the Carolina Hurricanes. Thoughts?
I am going to go with my friend, the one, the only, Toivo is mine with a second shot at Dougie Hamilton.
Good picks. I like the idea of them having to squeeze Toivo Teravainen's name onto the little plaque on the trophy.
Try to spell it correctly.
Yeah. And try to spell it correctly. Some standouts to me have been Warren Foegele.
Foegele, yeah.
Foegele. I thought Jordan Stahls looked really good. So those would probably be in the conversation for me.
I know, like, game-winning goals mean a lot, especially when it comes to Conn Smythes, and Stahl has 2 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so that would definitely put him up at the top, especially with one of them being the OT winner. I just, it's Jordan Stahl. I don't expect him to keep it up over the course of the playoffs.
Well, I mean, that's it. It's only the second round, Carl. So you never know what the rest of the round brings, what the third and fourth round bring, if they make it that far.
You got to play the games.
New York Islanders.
It's going to Robin Lehner, and if it's anyone else, it is Jordan Eberle.
Yeah, 100%. Those are my picks as well.
Excellent. All right, let's talk one thing before we wrap up the show. Obviously, some teams have ended their seasons, and we don't have time to do a full elimination station style thing. But I know you've been getting this a lot, being where you're from. And I think just in general, there's a lot. And if I look at teams primed, obviously the Blue Jackets with their amount of free agents are going to have a big offseason. But a team with the most riding on this offseason coming up is the Maple Leafs. Right? They've got the Mitch Marner contract to deal with. Aside from that, there is a lot. And the season-ending press conference for the Leafs was interesting, to say the least.
Was it, Carl?
It was, well...
Why?
Usually you see teams come out and they say all the right things at these press conferences, right? Like, oh, we have, we're going to do what we can. We love our players. We love the coaching staff. We're going to make some changes where we need to. And we had, a lot. We talked last week about the weird coaching player usage of Mike Babcock. Game 7, it only got worse.
Oh, it was terrible. Like, I was yelling at the TV.
Right. Same. Like, why is Connor Brown on the ice right now? Where is Mitch Marner? Where is Austin Matthews? Which then led to, like, the questions of, to Kyle Dubas of not Kyle Babcock, Mike Babcock. Kyle Babcock is entirely unrelated. We don't care about him. But Mike Babcock. And his future with the team. And usually they, the general manager and management will give a positive review. Kyle Dubas was in no mood for that. He said something along the lines of, we'll evaluate things in the offseason and make whatever decisions we find necessary, which is the least vote of confidence I've ever heard from a team.
Yeah. And how about his boss line that he has the power to fire anyone he wants?
Yeah. Which is interesting. You want that in a general manager. You want to give them that, but I would be surprised if he would not at least check with like his boss and be like, "Hey, do you mind if I fire Mike? Like the big guy that you brought in 3 years ago, paraded him around. Do you mind if I get rid of him with like all this money left on the books?" I don't know how much is in the coaching coffers there with them. Big rumors that they're also going to be investing heavily in analytics this offseason, like in the millions of dollars being invested into that department.
Yeah, well, Dubas is a well-known computer boy, right? Sure, we can use that term.
As a fellow nerd, I feel safe using that word.
Yeah. Well, we all know he's a big fan of that stuff.
Yeah. He also saw Avengers this weekend.
Yeah.
But yeah. And so they're going to be doing that, but what do you think? Like, obviously Babcock's job's not entirely safe, but is it at risk?
No, I think he's fine. I think he'll be back. I think that, so last year, the story when the Leafs exited the playoffs was the Babcock-Matthews rift. Remember that?
Yeah, Babcock.
Now Babcock had to fly over. Yeah. This year it's going to be Babcock and Dubas. I think that the team was stunned by the loss to the Bruins because I think everyone was feeling this year is their year. You throw Tavares into the mix. He has a career season. Yeah, you got Boston again, but the regular season went so well that we can pull this off. I think there was a bit of shock there, and then you expose them to the media so soon after their tragic loss, and there's some emotion. And I think Dubas is kind of new agey in that he doesn't stick to the generic hockey answers, and he speaks his mind a little bit. And Babcock does too, by the way, because he's been, saying to the media all year kind of the kinds of players he wants on his roster.
Well, and he did not take any blame or responsibility for that game. He wasn't like, maybe I should have played Matthews more. Maybe I shouldn't have put Connor Brown and Patrick Marleau out on the ice so much.
No, it's not his style.
No. And so, we saw that in Detroit, right? The Leafs knew what they were getting. To look at him in Detroit and say, you would know better, I'll let you speak to his usage there, but.
Oh, it was the same. Fourth liners, guys have top six players having a tough time breaking into the lineup. Like Gus Nyquist didn't become a regular NHLer until he was 24 years old because Babs just wouldn't play him regularly.
He's having a fantastic playoff in San Jose.
Yeah, and he's had a great career since Babcock left Detroit. He became one of the key guys there. Same with Tomas Tatar, who I know he was traded 2 years ago, but same thing. He had such a hard time cracking the lineup under Babcock. But guys like Darren Helm and Luke Glendening are all playing, I don't know how many minutes a night then versus now, but a lot.
Yeah, more than they should have.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so we'll see there. They also have, roster decisions to make as well, having to figure out what to do. I think, I guess before we carry on, I would be less surprised than you if Babcock. I would put it at a 47% chance that Babcock returns next year. Slightly less than half.
Nah, I think he'll be back. I think once everyone just takes some time off, relax, go to the cottage and turn off your phone for a bit. Plus Shanahan's been through much worse than this before. I'm sure he's in the background saying to Dubas, dude, this is not a big deal. We can hit the reset button in the off season and go at it again next year.
Do you actually think that it's not a big deal though? Because I look at this and I say to myself, this is a team that does not use the tools that they have, right? Why do you want Kyle Dubas to go out and spend $9.5 million on Mitch Marner only to have Patrick Marleau and a bunch of fourth liners play more minutes than him? How is Kyle going to say, this is what I'm going to do? I'm going to invest in this guy to look like an idiot when you don't use him?
I don't know. It's a good point. These guys got to get on the same page on these are the players that are going to be on the team, and this is how they should be used.
Yeah, they definitely need to sort that out. And I guess, the money to Marleau, they're going to have to figure out, is Nazem Kadri back next year, right? Can you trust him to not get suspended against Boston next year?
100%. Kadri should be back.
Yeah.
I think Marleau is a little easier to move.
Well,
I don't think his contract's that bad.
Marleau's deal's not that bad. Other moves, there's been a significant amount of talk, Zaitsev, that his deal might not be as unmovable as some might think. If you're a team with some significant cap space, I'd be okay on a very low giving up things deal. Yeah, I'd be all right taking on a Zaitsev deal as using him as a second or third pair D.
For sure. There's definitely a market for Connor Brown. There's definitely a market for Andreas Johnson if you have to move him.
Yeah, or just let someone try to offer sheet him, right? It'll be a low offer sheet, but if you can't move him and you can't get that, just let him go find his own contract. Let him set the market for himself. And if you don't like it, then go. Which I think if we're going to see an offer sheet, it would be one of those smaller ones. I don't expect, best case scenario for the Leafs is that they manage to convince someone to offer sheet Marner and then they go out and sign Panarin, right? It's unlikely, But if you have that money allotted somewhere, I don't know which one I'd rather have of Marner Panarin. You know, Marner's younger. If you're signing someone to an 8-year deal, I'd rather probably be Marner. But right now, I'd rather have Panarin on my team.
Yeah, I think Marner is. No, I think I'd put my money on Marner for sure.
Yeah, but nonetheless, if you're getting 4 first-round picks, and which I don't. That said, incredibly unlikely that scenario happens.
Yeah, I think the real risk for offer sheet is Kasperi Kapanen. He's the one that I actually see as being worth like the kind of the range of salary that he'd fall under. He's the one who I think would be worth giving up the picks for.
Yeah, and you can force the Leafs' hand a little bit. And worst case scenario, they just end up in a cap pick that they don't want to be in. So
yeah, they're not there yet, but it's very close.
They are on the verge. Well, we've got a lot of second round. One thing we do have to do before we wrap up is we need to hand out some high sticking winners.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, we finished the first round. We are on to the second round, and tons of folks have been playing on our Twitter at Fourth Line Podcast. They've been heading there and picking who they think is going to win each game in the playoffs, every single one of them. Thank you to the second round for having half the games of the first round. That's a big perk, to not have to record the scores and points for all 4 games a night. And tonight, only 1 game. I get to wake up tomorrow morning and only have to hand out 1 game worth of points. So that's nice.
Wow. What are you going to do with all the time on your hands?
I don't know. Probably go etch out some tattoos for us to get. But you head to our Twitter at Fourth Line Podcast and pick who will win and what the score will be for every single game. If you're right on all of it, you get 3 points per game. If you're in the middle, you get 1 or less. But we did the draw actually offline because I needed to reset the scoreboard. Right? I have to start the second round. Mike Vilche, he's leading right now. The leader of last round, Mike Laybourne, he ended the round with 32 points, I believe. Again, I removed it, but what I do know is that when we did the draw, Mike Laybourne was the winner of high sticking for the first round of the playoffs. So congratulations, Mike.
Yeah, Mike. I always knew you had it in you.
You could be the winner of round 2. All you have to do is play. It is a draw based on how many points you have earned. Every point is a name in the hat. There will be hundreds of names in the hat by the end of the round. It could be you. We could be drawing your name. And we hope that that's true. Thanks again to Sam for coming and joining us today. Obviously, head to First Ohio Battoo-ery with a 1 for first. Don't spell out first. That's one thing we didn't mention earlier. It is the number 1 First Ohio Battoo-ery.com. And head there, get all of your Columbus Blue Jackets news. And maybe some more bets will happen if you follow him on Twitter. Who knows? If you head to albertapodcastnetwork.com, you can find great podcasts to listen to. Maybe you're off to travel to a different country to watch a playoff hockey game, and you need something to listen to on the flight. Maybe you're traveling for work. Maybe you're on a road trip. Maybe you're taking the bus to work. These are all great places to listen to the Alberta Podcast Network. And some of those places talk about movies. One of the things you should do is if you like movies, you can go there and you can listen to repodcasting. So maybe they'll talk about Avengers. Maybe they'll repodcast Avengers. What they do is they like to recast movies. So Janet and Lucia, they recast your favorite or not so favorite movies, and we'll see what they do. So maybe they'll have an Avengers movie coming out here, but you can find them at repodcasting.blueberry.net or repodcasting anywhere you find it. The last episode they did is a movie that's near and dear to my heart. I don't want to say near and dear. I like it. Hitch. The Will Smith classic.
Oh, yeah.
Classic. I don't know.
Forgot about that movie.
Which is a good movie. They recast it, and I think that they should leave it alone. Kevin James does a great job. Will Smith, fantastic. Can we recast that movie exactly the same? Or
just today?
I wouldn't be sad if you recast it, but had the characters in the movie as different Kevin James characters. Like Paul Blart in Hitch wouldn't be the worst idea. I'd watch that movie. It'd be different, but I'd watch it. It
would be very different.
Yeah.
It'd make for a different movie.
It would. Well,
which Will Smith character would you recast?
I know. I know there's a new Men in Black movie coming out with no Will Smith. That's disappointing.
Yeah, that is kind of disappointing.
I think that Wild Wild West Will Smith would make a really bad Wild Wild West Will Smith with Paul Blart Mall Cop would make for a fantastic movie.
All right, I'd watch that movie, Carl.
All right, well, tune in, find out what they recast. They probably didn't do that, and that's why they have a podcast talking about it, and we talk about hockey. Head to thefourthlinepodcast.com for all the information on our show. Find Nick on Twitter as well as the show at Fourth Line Podcast, as I've mentioned probably 4 times already. So please do it.
It's time for us to wrap up another Fourth Line show. I know what you're thinking. You don't want us to go. I'm enjoying round number 2, but I won't be getting a butt tattoo.